A dusty Italian village, a scrappy kid with grease-stained fingers, and a heart filled with the thunder of engines. That's the exact origin of today's highly expensive, lavish sports brand Ferrari. Yes, that's true. But how does a kid with nothing build a multi-billion-dollar symbol of excess? Let's explore the answer to the question in today's video and see the notable journey of Enzo Ferrari from the very beginning. In the early 1900s, cars were still a relatively new phenomenon, especially in rural areas where sightings of automobiles were rare. While urban centers had a decent road infrastructure, the same couldn't be said for the more remote parts of the world. Northern Italy mirrored this trend. During this era, Italian cars were predominantly crafted by local manufacturers, with many of the country's automotive hubs functioning as workshops operated by skilled engineers. One such workshop belonged to Alfredo Ferrari, and it was situated on the outskirts of Modena in northern Italy's Emilia-Romagna region. Primarily a metal worker, Alfredo plied his trade in metal and dabbled in car repairs, leveraging his hands-on knowledge as a car owner. Nobody knew that he would soon be the father of Enzo Ferrari, the founder of today's sport vehicle giant. Enzo Ferrari entered this world on February 18, 1898, in Modena, Italy. Interestingly, his birth story adds a touch of drama. He was born amidst a heavy snowstorm. His father couldn't report it right away, and official records note 20th February as his birthday. However, Enzo's birth certificate indicates 20th February 1898, with the registration occurring on 24th of February, as the midwife Jacqueline D'Amico reported. Eddie Ferrari was born to Alfredo Ferrari and Adalgisa Bisbini. He had a brother named Alfredo Jr., who was nicknamed Dino. Enzo's dad, Alfredo Jr., started a workshop at the family home for making metal items. Enzo didn't go to school much as a child, but his life changed when he was 10 years old and he saw Felice Nazzaro win at the 1908 Circuito di Bologna. It made him want to be a race car driver. There were some challenging parts of Enzo's journey. While in the army, he was in the 3rd Mountain Artillery Regiment. He lost both his father and older brother to the Italian flu in 1916, making it a tragedy. During the 1918 flu pandemic, Enzo got very sick, leading him to be kicked out of the Italian army. He was so eager to get his hands on an automobile that he wasted no time approaching Fiat in Turin. Refusing to give up, he found work as a test driver for Costruzioni Meccanici Nazionali, a Milanese automaker that specialized in repurposing truck body parts for smaller passenger cars. In 1919, Ferrari made his competitive debut in the Parma-Poggio di Berceto hill climb competition, having swiftly progressed from testing to racing cars. He proved his strength behind a 2.3-liter, 4-cylinder CMN 1520 with his 4th place finish. A turning point came in 1920, when Ferrari became an integral component of Alfa Romeo's racing department, firmly establishing himself as a driver. He had a significant change in his racing career in 1923, when he won the Circuito del Savio in Ravenente against all odds. It earned him praise from fans like Count Enrico Baracca. Enzo went to the Count's house and heard about Francesco Baracca, Italy's best fighter ace in World War I, who had the Cavallino Rampante emblem, a black horse prancing on a white background. The Countess was so impressed by Enzo's skills that she gave him her son's emblem. It is where the famous Ferrari sign got its start. He reached the pinnacle of his racing career with 3 victories in 1924. At Ravenna, Polesine, and Peschiera's Coppa Arcebo. Even with all of these victories, Ferrari was nonetheless saddened by the untimely deaths of fellow racers Ugo Sivocci and Antonio Ascari. He then turned his attention to overseeing and improving the factory race cars produced by Alfa Romeo. He kept doing well in racing, which led him to start Scuderia Ferrari in 1929. For 10 years, his team was Alfa Romeo's racing division. It became a powerhouse with great drivers like Tazio Nuvolari and Giuseppe Campari. The team won essential races like the Targa Florio, the Le Mans 24 Hours, and many Grand Prix thanks to Enzo's sharp eye for ability. It was the time when the famous prancing horse logo first appeared. It was based on the personal sign of the Italian fighter pilot Francesco Baracca. Ferruccio Ferrari put the emblem on his Alfa Romeo race car as a tribute to Baracca. When Ferrari teamed up with Alfa Romeo, their racing team, Scuderia Ferrari, had some early success. However, Alfa Romeo withdrew their support in 1933 due to financial problems. Later, with Pirelli's involvement, they reinstated it. Despite the tough Scuderian drivers, the team faced formidable opponents like Auto Union and Mercedes. However, a notable victory came in 1935 when Tazio Nuvolari beat Rudolf Caracciola and Bernd Rosemeyer to win the German Grand Prix. When Scuderia Ferrari disbanded in 1937, Ferrari returned to racing for Alfa, this time as Alfa Corse. Even though Ferrari remained on as sporting director, Alfa Romeo opted to disband Scuderia Ferrari in 1938 so they could form their squad. After Enzo Ferrari took over as manager of the new team in 1939, the two separated ways to develop Auto Avio Costruzioni. Ferrari has agreed to refrain from racing alongside Alfa Romeo's squad for the next 4 years in exchange for a vital severance payment. Two Ferraris, ran by Alberto Ascari and Lotario Rangoni, made it to the 1940 Mille Miglia despite a contractual restriction that prohibited him from participating in either racing or car design. Despite restrictions, Enzo attempted to design his race car, the AAC 815, producing 2 cars within 4 months. One still survives and is part of the Regini collection, housed in a 15th century castle near Modena. During the war, Mussolini's fascist government used Ferrari's plant to make weapons for the war, but challenges continued when Allied bombings hit Ferrari's factory. Yet, by 1946, he had it up and running again. Ferrari moved to Maranello. He started making automobiles with his name. In 1947, Ferrari introduced the Ferrari 125S, the inaugural car bearing the Ferrari name. Diverging from the Fiat-designed 8-cylinder engine in the 815, Enzo's team crafted a V-shaped engine with 6 cylinders on each side, the iconic V12, a staple of Ferrari models post-World War II. In 1948, his team raced its first open-wheel race in Turin. By the end of the year, they had won their first race at Lago di Garda. But the real step forward came at the 24-hour of Le Mans in 1949. The winning car was a Ferrari 166mm, driven by Luigi Chinetti and Peter Mitchell-Thompson. It was a big win for the young team. When Ferrari joined the Drivers' World Championship in 1950, they became the only team to have been part of it continuously since the beginning. In 1951, José Froilán González won Ferrari's first World Championship Grand Prix at Silverstone. It was the turning point. According to legend, Enzo Ferrari cried joyfully when he beat the powerful Alfetta 159. 2 more titles followed this win in 1952 and 1953, both driven by Alberto Ascari. When Ferrari tried racing in the Indianapolis 500 for the first time in 1953, they lost when Ascari's car crashed during the race. Despite this, Ferrari's dedication to several racing events, such as the Mille Miglia and the Le Mans, led to more fame and wins. During the 1957 Mille Miglia, however, tragedy struck when Alfonso de Bortago's Ferrari 335S crashed into a crowd, killing many. Engelbert, the tire manufacturer, and Enzo's Ferrari were both charged with the killing. The case ended in 1961. Ferrari didn't like how Italian press covered racing, so they helped start a new magazine called Autosprint in 1961. For a few years, he usually wrote for the magazine. Among Ferrari's many impressive wins were the 9 Le Mans, including an unheard-of 6 straight wins from 1960 to 1965. During the 1950s and 1960s, drivers like Juan Manuel, Fangio, Mike Hawthorne, and Phil Hill made Ferrari the best team in Formula One. With these wins, Ferrari established its reputation as a global leader in motorsports. In 1962, Enzo Ferrari found himself in a storm inside and outside his racing empire. His management style, often bold and controversial, took a toll after Phil Hill's less-than-stellar defense of the 1961 title. It triggered a major shakeup, as key players like Girolamo Gardini, Romolo Tavoni, Carlo Cinti, and others jumped ship to create a rival outfit called ATS, backed by Count Giovanni Volpi. ATS snatched some key personnel and swayed drivers like Phil Hill and Giancarlo Baghetti away from Ferrari. Never one to back down, Enzo responded by reshuffling his deck, bringing in fresh talent like Ludovico Scarfiotti, Lorenzo Bandini, Willie Maires, and John Surtees. This period, known as the Great Walkout, coincided with the uncertain development of a new 250-based model, adding a layer of complexity to Ferrari's racing future. Despite the challenges, Ferrari's strategic moves paid off. The mid-engined Dino racers laid the foundation for the formidable 250P, and in 1964, John Surtees clinched the world title after an intense battle. The Dino cars found eager buyers, and upcoming models like the 275 and Daytona signaled a promising road ahead. In stark contrast, ATS struggled in the Formula One circuit in 1963, retiring 4 times in 5 races. Financial strains ultimately led to ATS folding at the close of the year. This divergence highlighted Ferrari's resilience and adaptability, turning adversity into triumph. In a revealing 1998 interview, Romolo Tavoni shared insights into the departure of senior figures from Ferrari. It wasn't a voluntary exit. A disagreement over the role of Tavoni's wife in the company led to their removal. Tavoni acknowledges the mistake of resorting to legal channels instead of open discussions. Having already lined up successors, Ferrari convened a meeting to terminate their roles. At the end of the 1960s, Ferrari had trouble with his finances and had to deal with new rules for making road cars. Competition in multiple categories, while meeting strict safety and pollution standards, further complicated matters. In 1969, Ferrari sold 50% of his company to Fiat SPA to save it. The deal ensured that Ferrari kept control of racing operations and that Fiat would provide financial support until he died. In a strange turn of events, Ferrari had offered Ford $18 million to buy it out in 1963. But talks broke down when Ferrari insisted on keeping control of the race department on its own. Fiat had a small stake in the company in 1965. In 1969, it grew to 50%, and by 1988, it had grown to 90%. After the deal with Fiat, Ferrari gave up his job as managing head of the road car division in 1971. Luca Cordero Montezemolo took charge in 1974, steering the team through successful years with notable achievements. Niki Lauda won the championships in 1975 and 1977, but Ferrari's choice to replace her with Gilles Villeneuve in 1977 caused some controversy. The fiery style of Villeneuve, which reminded Ferrari of Tazio Nuvolari, turned them over. In the early 1970s, Ferrari and local builders worked together to improve the Modena Autodrome. Because of problems with the government, Ferrari decided to buy land next to the track and build the Fiorano circuit to test race and regular cars. Even though Jody Scheckter won the title in 1979, the team had problems in 1980. When Ferrari switched to turbo engines in 1981, The 126C2 showed promise by 1982. Sadly, Gilles Villeneuve's death in an accident in May 1982 cast a shadow. During the 1982 season, Didier Pironi had a crash that ended his career. That year, though, the team won the Constructors' Championship. There were ups and downs in Ferrari's last few years. Switching to turbo engines, terrible accidents, and fierce competition shaped this age. The team won races, with Ferrari seeing its last win in 1987, when Gerhard Berger and Michael Alboreto finished first and second in Australia. Enzo Ferrari passed away on August 14, 1988, in Maranello at the age of 90, succumbing to leukemia. He expressed his desire for discreet passing, requesting that the media report his death only on August 16th, after his private burial on August 15th. Early in the season, Ferrari beat McLaren to win the Italian Grand Prix, which was held soon after Ferrari's death. After Ferrari, Scuderia Ferrari continued to do well, winning the Constructors' Championship from 1999 to 2004, and again in 2007 and 2008. From 2000 to 2004, Michael Schumacher won the World Drivers' Championship. Raikkonen won the title. As long as the Scuderia Ferrari team wins races, Ferrari's legacy goes on. Does the story inspire you? What lessons did you learn from it? Let us know in the comments section, and don't forget to subscribe. See ya!